Hello everyone and welcome to Game 3 now in the series Game 3 of this best of 3 Empire's Bratok versus Slider here on Entombed Valley. Bratok taking Game 2 with a little bit of cheddar and now able to force a Game 3. Now even though that tactic seemed very cheesy, and yes it was a very smart mind game by Bratok, who is spawning on the bottom left-hand side of the map as the yellow Terran. The reason why it was a smart move by Bratok is he scouted Slider and he knew Slider's build in Game 1. And from Game 1, he knew that Slider had cut the early Zealot and also cut the early Stalker in order to get that Nexus just a little bit faster. Anytime a player cuts corners in order to get an economic advantage, they end up having a lot smaller of an army early on. And with that, Bratok was able to abuse the fact that there was no army early on. 5 Marines up against 1 Stalker. The Stalker was chrono boosted out, and there wasn't enough warp gates to really train units, and now it is up to Slider to figure out how he is going to respond and react. You can take a look at Slider moving around with this one particular probe, and I would say that this map is actually a little bit more favorable for him to do that early Nexus expansion. The reason why: there is no real good place to try to set up a proxy barracks. Unlike on Metalopolis, where there's a pretty shared common choke point, there is no shared area here that isn't revealable by that center Xel'Naga tower. And any unit that's trying to scout will quickly find that there, as we do see a supply depot has been laid down. Will it actually get destroyed by the probe? That is a good question. Down to 25, and now finally being rebuilt once more as that SCV takes a little bit of damage. Alright, this one particular SCV now scouting across the map. Slider may be going for that build once again, where he does get that fast Nexus. He sees that the barracks has been placed down here at the front door and knows that there is not going to be a proxy barracks, so he should feel very comfortable setting up his Nexus down here. Now, interestingly enough, if we look at Bratok actually doing a completely different build than what we saw in Game 1, where he is going for a 1 Rax expand. 1 Rax expand. Here, command center already being placed down. We are upgrading, or already upgraded, to an orbital, and we'll see if we are going to be having a double refinery here in just a moment. Nexus currently coming in, as we are still getting up that Stalker and getting out that Cybernetics core, getting the chrono boost down on it as well. So far, 3 Marines up on the high ground, and we should be seeing a transition into the mid game. I don't know if Grifter is there. I'm sorry, this is just a replay. It's like I'm looking back in time. Wow, Bratok now setting up a 3rd command center here, and he's going to be playing for a completely different style than we saw in Game 1. So we are seeing the many different styles of Bratok in this matchup, and we are going to see what 3-4 Marines perhaps regroup together, and getting a lot of damage down on that Stalker. The Stalker actually taking a little bit of critical damage and now forced to pull away. The Marine's going to be sitting at the Xel'Naga tower here, pretty content. Back over here, command center is about 60% completed. Orbital command now about 30% completed, as we should be seeing an add-on here, as we are now going into double barracks with double refineries, and perhaps transitioning into a very heavy Terran bio with medevacs. Marines now simply looking around. I like the play by Bratok, making sure that there are no proxy pylons anywhere he can spot. It looks like Slider is trying to do exactly that, and this is going to be, a little bit of a perfect timing by Slider. Slider catching a bit of a lucky break. No, spots it. Down goes the probe, and now down goes that 1 pylon as well. Quick way to lose a whole bunch of resources, as Slider should cancel that there, losing a total of 75 resources here, as now this one lone Marine on patrol in between or at the Xel'Naga tower will quickly get taken down. 1 bunker is already up, a 2nd bunker now trying to be established. 3 Stalkers going to test that test that ramp here, and those Stalkers, as soon as they see the bunker, will most likely back off, knowing that they cannot get that much damage in. Marines now jumping out of the bunker, getting out some free shots, and we may just see the shields recharge on all of those Stalkers before they try and test that front door once more. Slider, thinking that perhaps he's taking an early advantage, trying to establish up a third, doesn't know that Bratok already has up a third orbital command and is trying to saturate his bases as quickly as possible. 36 probes versus 33 SCVs, and this is going to turn into a massive battle sometime around the 14-minute mark, as both players are thinking to themselves, I have an economic advantage, I'll strike when I'm near maximum supply. SCV now trying to slip away. It looks like it will simply just get taken down here, as Marines and Marauders are doing the trek out across the map. There is one Stalker here. Oh, the Stalker smartly decides to retreat and return back home, as it knows it can't do very much of anything, especially against some Marauders there. Now, these rocks have yet to be destroyed, surprisingly. I'm really curious as to why Bratok has not taken down these rocks in order to easily transfer some SCVs off over here and also move some natural defense units. There we go. The Marines and the Marauders now attempting to take down these rocks. Marauders, Marines will take that down probably in the next, I would say, 45 seconds or so. Meanwhile, Stalkers, Zealots, and Sentries already further along, attempting to take down this set of destructible rocks. The Nexus is already up and operational, chrono boosting out more probes. Meanwhile, Bratok is finally calling in some mules here at the third base and will begin to mine very, very quickly. Slider sitting at 78 over 102. Bratok sitting at 80 over 81. More gateways being added. Slider has plenty of room to, and plenty of supply room at this point, as he is going into extended thermal lance range and Colossi. Are we going to see a War of the Worlds style army, as Slider, if he invests heavily into Colossi, should be able to take down much of that Terran bio, as long as Vikings are not added in the overall numbers. Marines and Marauders now simply making a move into the center portion of the map. It looks like Stim has been completed. Combat Shield has yet to be completed. Concussive Shell is yet to be completed. Combat Shield yet to be completed as well. But it is already about 40 seconds away, as we're transitioning even heavier into more and more bio. Currently, production shows 8 barracks plus 1 engineering bay, more and more barracks still being added. Factory is simply floating off, and where is that starport? I don't see a starport as of yet, so why even bother? Oh nope, he wants it for the armory and then for the engineering bay and level 2 weapons upgrade. Factory simply doing a fly around here. We'll be able to catch sight of Slider's operational base already. 70 SCVs versus 66 probes. Both players playing in the dark as to what the other player is doing, except Slider finally knows that there is an expansion there. Meanwhile, Bratok still does not know that there is an expansion here. One medevac on the move. How much damage can it do? Only time can tell, as the Colossi are quickly scanner sweeped, and these Marines and these Marauders know that they need to get away, and in a hurry. One Marauder perhaps should have just turned around and absorbed a lot of that damage there, as we are going into a Marauder drop here. The Marauders quickly making their way over, going after probes. Probes are falling very quickly. Probes just getting shot down here. Multiple probes so far destroyed. Down it goes. And now perhaps we will be going after the last couple of probes and at the refinery, or at the assimilators. Meanwhile, the Marauders and Marines actually catching a little bit of a lucky break, as there are some Stalkers out of position. Oh, Bratok looking to not actually engage and chase after those units. That was actually a bad decision move there, as Slider looks to finish off a Nexus. Colossi now with that extended thermal lance range, able to slice through so many of these supply depots, and now SCVs getting torn apart, as so many force fields preventing any sort of reinforcement. There is a lot of Stalkers now warped in, but not before the Nexus does get taken down, and it looks like we are overall even. One Colossus does fall. More Marines and Marauders still being added to the group. Will this last Colossus fall, as it's trying to chase desperately, unable to, and we are still about even in terms of supply. Vikings now need to find their target, Otherwise, this Colossus is just going to destroy. No, the Stalkers get there in time once more. Another Colossus gets taken down as SCVs absorbing a lot of damage and look to finish off the rest of this Stalker engagement. Slider now down to 70 supply. We see a new Nexus now warping in, and Bratok coming out ahead in this battle with being able to save an orbital command and easily be able to train up 3 SCVs at a time if he chose to. 62 versus 59. This one proxy pylon will get shut down by Slider in just a moment. There it goes. A 60 supply advantage, almost 100% advantage by Bratok. And once you are able to just have a much larger army than your opponent, when you engage, you're just going to be killing your opponent's units much more quickly, forcing their DPS and forcing that disparity to grow even further. Bratok still with a factory here, scouting out. Slider does know that there is a factory there. He's choosing not to engage into it, as there is 1-1 Zealots up against 2-1 Marines and Marauders, soon to be 2-2 and eventually 3-2. What's going to be happening here as the Vikings are up on the high ground? Marauders and the Marines shooting up onto the high ground, even though they really don't have quote-unquote line of sight, able to somehow make bullets curve and make Punisher grenades curve around and hit the units that are not within straight line of sight. Marines and Marauders still engaging here. How much damage will we have? We can see siege tanks now once again falling, and not siege tanks, Stalkers once again falling, as Slider gives the GG. Well played. And Bratok showing 3 really different styles of Terran in this Terran versus Protoss matchup. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.